Today I'm going to interview a game artist from Epic Game, Jonathan. Hello.
Hello.
Um, Long time no see, Jonathan. So what company you working for nowadays? Epic?
Yeah, I'm working for Epic Games. I've
And,
only been there for like 5 months or so.
oh, awesome.
Yeah,
Oh,
but I've been working in the game industry for like 6.5 years.
6.5 years. From where you from originally?
I'm from South Africa.
I have to ask all this
I worked
question.
there. I started working in like mobile games for 4 years or so,
Okay,
for about two.
awesome.
And
And this is
yeah,
some of the Jonathan work. So, what made you get into the game business industry thinking over here?
um, I think ever since I played games as a little kid, I was just like, damn, I want to get a piece of this. Um,
You want to get pieces, like just want to make them. Let me make them.
yeah, but like it also felt like it was a career that would make use of a whole bunch of different skills.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and like when I was in school, I really loved writing. I loved doing art. I loved maths. I just really enjoyed learning.
Mm-hmm.
And I really struggled to find some sort of career that would make use of all of these things. It always felt like I'd have to be using like about left and right brain or whatever. I felt
Mm-hmm.
like I'd have to pick something that had to be one or the other. And when I discovered video games, I was just like, oh my gosh, you have to do art and
Good.
programming.
This
It's
job
like
is
the
made
sort
for
of,
you.
yeah, like everything together. And it's like, I mean, websites kind of do that too, but
Mm-hmm.
like websites are largely just UI. There usually isn't like storytelling and more like creating worlds and the world
Mm-hmm.
building.
Mm-hmm.
So games seem like a perfect fit.
Oh, this is a nice one. Is this life drawing or studies? That's cool. You,
No, that was from Imagination.
oh, nice. Awesome. That looks great. So, all right. Let's get to the business here. So, what are you working on right now? Can you spill some beans? Or
Um, at Epic, I'm working
is
on a
this
game called
secret?
Fortnite.
Fortnite?
Um, yeah, it's
Okay.
it's a game that Epic announced like something like 4 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so I joined near the end.
Oh, I see.
I hope.
Is it out yet,
I'm
or
assuming it's near the
it's
end.
not?
No,
Because I
it's
haven't
not.
heard about it. Okay.
Um,
So,
Tim Sweeney, the CEO, he sort of spilled the beans at GDC, I think, and he
okay.
said that it was
So
releasing this year, so
awesome.
it should be coming
So,
out soonish.
what kind of game is it?
It's uh, it's sort of a cross between Minecraft and Left 4 Dead. There's
What?
like crafting and building buildings and traps and weapons and stuff, and killing zombies, like sort of waves of zombies and things.
Oh, awesome. Wow.
Yeah,
That's cool. Minecraft and
I
zombie.
especially like the art style. It's like a very stylized art style, which is something you don't
Oh,
usually see out of Epic.
so it's gonna be different this time. So it's gonna be more like kind of like what Valve did with what is it called? What the hell?
Or like Team Fortress
Team
2 or
Fortress.
something.
Yeah, yeah, because it's totally
Yeah, it's sort
different
of
from
similar.
Half-Life. Yeah.
Yeah,
So it's like they do something super realistic. Like Games of War is kind of semi-realistic, but I would say it's
right.
leaning toward realistic side. So
Yeah,
this
for the
one's
most
gonna
part,
be
Epic is known for being like sort of super high detail.
yeah, and I
Um,
mean they spend some time just like Valve, it's like they're not gonna release game if it's not ready, and they're like trustworthy brand, so it's
right.
pretty good. Yeah, they're like pretty respectable in the industry.
Yeah. Otherwise, in my own time, I just mess around a lot.
Hmm.
So this is something
So,
I made. I think it was last month.
oh, this, yeah, Zumo guy looks
Yeah.
fun. Is this is this gonna be in the game?
No, this is all stuff that I do in my own time.
Awesome. Okay, so how long you been in the state already? Like 5 months?
Yeah.
Oh, awesome. South Africa, that's quite a way.
Yeah, it is.
This is
It's a
super
pretty
cool.
big
Nice,
change.
nice conversation. Yeah.
Thank you.
So, what let me ask you about your process, like what you do on a day-to-day basis over there, and
Sure.
what is your responsibilities like?
Yeah, so currently at Epic, I'm an effects artist.
Mhm.
So I have to make just about everything that's to do with effects, whether it's like explosions or muzzle flashes
Oh,
or
we have
magic,
some explosion here.
um,
Ta-da.
anything like that. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what he did. Fire tornado. Look great.
Yeah.
Yeah, look like some kind of spell, super big boss spell or something.
Yeah.
All right.
It's
And
actually like a pretty new field to me, in the
Mhm.
sense that it's the first time that I've had to work as an effects artist, like a specialist effects artist. In the
Mhm.
past, I've done effects, but it's always been as an art generalist.
Oh,
So it was like on this tiny team where we only have like
yeah.
3 or 4 artists or something, and so like I have to do everything anyway, and effects would just happen to be one of the things.
Oh, cool. So is this your first time on console or on PC? Is it going to be on PC or console?
It's gonna be on PC and console, I
Oh,
believe.
cool. Nice.
Yeah.
So is it your first time that convert from mobile to the big
No,
platform, or have you
before
done
before
platform
this,
before?
before this, I worked on a game called Broforce,
Mm-hmm.
which was on PC and PC, Mac, Linux,
Mm-hmm.
and PlayStation 4.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, so like on my website, just below the tornado thing, there's a
Yep. This thing.
yeah, there's that, which is the map from Broforce. That was like
Oh,
the,
awesome.
the sort of big project in there that I worked on. But yeah, I mean, this is only a tiny, tiny part of the game. The rest of the game is like a pixel art platformer where
Yeah,
you
yeah.
90s action heroes.
Like Zelda Minecraft. It's cool. Okay. So what's it what's the difference between, is there a big different gap of the pipeline on the mobile game and the platform?
You know what actually surprised me a lot when I was moving between all of these like different sizes of teams and different industries is that
Mm-hmm.
like the fundamental stuff is actually really similar.
Yeah.
Um, so if I work on a mobile game, we have to think a whole lot about performance. But
Mm-hmm.
when I work on a PC game, often they like if I look at Epic or I mean a lot of the time they're trying to like as well. And so even though you have all this power, you're using up so much more of that power as well. So you still end up having to think about performance and optimization
Yeah.
and everything anyway.
Yeah.
Um, with the indie game studio that I worked at, Free Labs, I feel like we maybe didn't think nearly as much about performance because we were like,
Mm-hmm.
oh well, we're making a pixel art game for PC,
Mm-hmm.
so maybe we don't have to care a lot about it. And
Mm-hmm.
we sort of didn't. And when the game got ported to PS4, it
It just,
got pretty
yeah.
laggy.
Yeah. I see. Yeah,
But we
that's
learned from
always
experience.
I think a lot of time when you port from PC to Xbox, it's a lot easier than porting anything to
Yeah,
like either PS3 or PS4.
yeah.
So, oh, Mike Dumas, he's one of my students over there. He just asking from live chat. He
Oh,
said
cool.
Broforce.
Yeah.
And he said, do you prefer VFX PC or mobile?
Sorry?
Do you prefer doing a VFX on PC or on mobile? Like which
Oh,
pipeline do you prefer?
oh gosh. No, having all of the power of being able to throw a whole bunch of stuff
Yeah.
at effects is just so much more satisfying to me. So I don't think I would ever work on mobile games again.
Well, don't
Um,
never say never. You might start your own thing or something,
yeah, maybe.
Yeah. But
But it's just like there are so many limitations. But at the same time, like technology
yeah, you
advances
have to.
really, really quickly,
Yeah,
and there will be a point where like mobile devices are just as good or
yeah.
something.
And also like when
So
you work on the big platform or the PC, you have
Mhm.
to kind of think ahead about like what would happen when the time release. So you kind of have to work a little bit over what we are having now, sort of.
Sure, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Like
sort of future-proofing your
yeah.
product.
So it's like if it's not come like 5 years later, it come out, you're like, holy shit, this look like 1980s, right?
Yeah,
Or something like that. So you have to keep it up with what the kids are doing these days.
right.
So that's awesome. So explain to the kids or to the viewer, like what break down all this, like how did you like break down your process on
Oh
this
yeah.
one on your tornado?
So so with this one, it was an artist for a game studio in the UK.
Mm-hmm.
I sort of have this thing where I want to just regularly apply to jobs, just to have an idea of what's out there and see what they're looking for. And so with this artist, they pretty much said that I could do whatever I wanted as an environmental effect.
Mm-hmm.
So I was just like, man, I could do. They recommended things like campfires or smoke coming out of a chimney. And I just thought those are really boring.
So
And
you
like if
just
I'm
like
gonna
went all
spend
out. Yeah.
Yeah, if I'm gonna be spending my own time doing an art test, then I want to make it something that like that was a really good use of my time.
Well done.
Yeah. So it's like, oh, what is the most badass thing that I can think of?
Yeah. Firestorm.
So I painted up this concept. What was
Mhm.
really cool is like the studio was very responsive. So I could send them a concept of what I wanted to do, and then they'd tell me, hey, like this is pretty ambitious, or we suggest you do these other things instead, or whatever. But like I could send progress, and then they would send me feedback, and we could like. It was almost as if I was working at the studio, which is really cool.
Yeah, that's awesome.
I feel like studios should do that as much as possible, because I feel like it when you're working somewhere, you're almost never working in isolation anyway, and it would be really good to be giving feedback to someone who's applying, just so that you learn how they deal with feedback. You learn how good your relationship can be if you're giving each other credit, or about the strengths of different methods of doing something.
Yeah.
And also just making sure that, hey, this person is working according to your art direction or whatnot.
And you're on the same page and all that. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's like nowadays, it's like every time, even if you are doing freelance or have your own firm or doing something, and you some stuff for people, nowadays the technology will kind of enable you to be able to kind of chat with them almost every day, unless you're doing a cover or something. But most of the time, you work with the games or film or something, they usually will. That's pretty cool. I like that. This thing.
Thanks. Yeah, this was for so when I was in Cape Town, we had this this thing that we would do regularly, which is we were game jamming, but it wasn't always a game that we were making. So we just made a lot of like silly little experiments. And this is one of them. I think like this was just sort of a 2-3 hour thing. It's just a bunch of particles, but you just loop through the particles and connect each particle to its closest couple of particles of the line. And you end up with like some interesting effects.
Yes, Big Bang. That could be the Big Bang. We don't know. All right. So, what software of your preference? Yeah, and I like this thing that sorry, I like this thing that you kind of start doing here. It's have a pretty good principle of what form should be, and it has like a pretty hard edge. So,
yeah, thanks.
Where is this idea coming up from? The Papermon thing.
So I've actually been taking another mentorship. I have this habit of like just signing up for courses regularly and wanting to learn from lots of different people. And I find that like even though I've been working for a while, I still do courses anyway, because even when it's a course about like the fundamentals of something, if I see the person who teaches it is really good, then I want to learn from them anyway, even if they're supposedly teaching something basic.
Yeah, this is pretty good. I saw it and I was like, holy cow, I should.
Yeah. So I've been taking
taking the ideas in.
I've been taking a mentorship with Anthony Jones.
That's cool.
And, yeah, so like I was telling him that I'm interested in art direction, and he was like, okay, you just need to iterate, like do lots and lots of thumbnails and like practice iterating and try and like generate as many ideas as you can. So I started out with a bunch of characters, and he was like, it feels like you're just going through the motions. Is there like something more special that you want to do? So then like I just drew a whole bunch of like weird things, and one of them was a paper, and he's like, that's really interesting, maybe you should try like paper animals. So I've just been doing paper animals for a while.
This is pretty cool. I like the ideas, like especially you have like breakdown of polygons really good, so that's a pretty solid idea.
Yeah, I mean, like just during this exercise I sort of realized that by simplifying forms and focusing on simpler shapes, it's like I could build on this and make it more complicated if I wanted to, but if the basic shapes are strong, then I can almost do whatever I want with it.
Yeah, everything is rely on the basic shape anyway. Like this shape is really good, so this shape is really good. Doesn't matter what you do with it.
Yeah, actually,
80% of them is gonna be good.
I took a mentorship with Xia like 3 years ago, I think.
That was like a long time ago.
Yeah, that was a while ago. And there was like the shading thing that you gave me, where it was like taking a person and breaking them down into like cubes and cylinders and shading like really simple forms, so that shading later on would be easy too.
Yeah,
it's really cool how a lot of these themes come back again and again.
Yeah, they always come back. But this you're breaking it down even further, so it's kind of like they have like a different, a unique shape, and you also see the actual shape of like what it could be. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So these and like you can totally see the shape of like all these things, and you can totally see them in three-dimensional space, and you can see them in the game, and
Right.
sort of like they have an actual form in life. They become alive. And question from the viewer again. Noah Allen asks, "Who is your favorite comic artist?"
Sure, comic artist.
Yeah, do you know any? You came from South Africa, right? So
Yeah,
do
I'm
you
gonna
have like,
like.
yeah, do you have like American comics over there?
We do have people who make comics there. Oh man, we've got people who are really good actually. There's a guy named David Strauss who's basically like a clone
Okay.
of Joe Mad. He draws so well, it's ridiculous.
Joe, man. Oh, awesome. That's
There's
cool.
there's like another guy named Dion DeLange.
Hmm.
He's also really, really good. His line art is amazing. He writes his own comic.
Oh, nice.
Crud, I can't remember what the comic's called.
Yeah, we live in
His comic's really good.
yeah, I think US kind of like we live in a bubbles, except like
Yeah,
a very niche manga, we will see that, but we would never see the whole lineup of everything. Or we would never see like French comics. We would never really see unless you like really specifically looking for them. You know what I mean?
yeah.
So
In fact, that's something that I've been really bad about. I feel like I've actually been so immersed into video games and making game content that like I haven't really I haven't really looked outside of games, and that's probably a pretty important thing to do for not making all of my stuff just look gamey all the time.
well,
Like
but that depends on your
looking
time.
at graphic design and
If you don't have
yeah, I
enough
know.
time, then and like working in game very demanding. You have to be there like probably like almost 8, 10, 12 hours
Yeah,
a day
I've
sometimes.
actually struggled a lot with focusing.
Yeah.
I've struggled a lot with focusing because I enjoy doing art. I enjoy doing tech experiments. I enjoy doing like so many different things. It's like a lot of the stuff that I sent you is just like these playful little things that I just do for me, but they're and they're very different in that like sometimes it's like the particles with the lines, and sometimes it's 2D animation, and sometimes it's like it's 3D and sculpts and
Oh, this is cool. Awesome. Nice.
yeah. So I don't know. I'm sort of a jack of all trades, but I'm trying to get to the point where I don't feel like I compare badly against other people.
No, I mean you're doing good. You've improved. Like that's for sure. That's like these
Yeah.
compositions is really awesome, and like all these things you did are pretty good. And I especially like those pepper thing that you come up with.
Thanks.
It just show like now you're paying more attention on to the fundamental rather than the fancy stuff, because a lot of time when people come and take mentorship or something, they
Mhm.
always have the different way of looking at things, which is it's not bad, but it's just not the priority is different. Do you know what I mean? So instead
Yeah.
of focusing on the fundamental stuff, they trying to do things that aren't necessarily will achieve the result that they want to get in the first place.
Yeah, I think it's really easy to look at a really great piece of art and want to paint something like that immediately. And
Hmm.
it's a bit like I don't know, doing exercise or something instead of slowly building up your weights, just like charging in and like rah, like you're gonna get injured and you're not gonna be happy with the result.
Yeah, I found
So,
this.
something,
Go
yeah,
ahead.
go ahead.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Okay. So something that I've been thinking a lot more about is how I often put a lot of pressure on myself to do really well or something, and it's
No, but you do well. So
thanks. But
yeah.
what I've been trying to do more recently is to just have fun and
Hmm.
just do what I feel like doing. And I mean, I'm sort of at a point in my career right now where like I don't have to worry too much about whether I'm going to have work or yeah, like I don't have to worry about that sort of thing. So
Yeah.
if I don't have to worry too much about career, then I can just mess around with creative projects, and
Yeah.
it doesn't matter if it looks good or not. I can be like pretty secure
Hmm.
in my career.
Well,
Um,
it's kind of like if you were being like you approve for the credit card, so you can always have the credit cards.
yeah.
No, I mean like it's a funny thing. Like it's kind of when people are trying to get into the industry, there's one thing they don't really understand is that people always hiring people who already are in the industry because people want the people to already be doing that job rather than
They
the
want experienced
people who
people
have the
already.
potential. Yeah. So they, you know what I mean? So once they know that you can do the job, then you basically are in. And a lot of time when they look at the portfolio, they would look into like this kind of stuff. You'll be like, oh, that's pretty fundamental, you know, because like if you're art director, you can see the flaw right away. It doesn't matter how fancy your character are. See what I mean?
Sure.
So and then they'll see like your strength and they'll see your weakness right off the bat. That's the first thing. And well done, Jonathan. Well, like I think you mentioned it like way back when you take mentorship that you want to make your way to the US, and congratulations, you made your way over here and with a
Yeah,
good company too. So that's pretty good. Yeah.
yeah. I'm still like very, very attached to South Africa. I have really, really good friends there and my old colleagues. I miss them a lot, and my family and everything.
Yeah, I understand. Yeah. You can always
but
smuggle them like in one by one.
but
like
it was also just that
transfer.
like if you grow up in a country that is outside of one of the like game development centers, it's really scary to build a career like that because you know, there might only be 2 or 3 game studios in your whole country that are stable or that pay well enough that you're there. So a lot of my thinking about looking outside of South Africa was just like job security and thinking about the future and thinking about like, you know, not wanting to have to worry about work.
Yeah, and most importantly, you build connections. And
yeah,
you know, whatever that come into the future is like I don't think US is going to be the center of video game or Japan is going to be the center of video game any longer, because now you see China and a bunch of other countries that are coming up. So it depends on how much you can pick up from over here. And then I'm not saying you should go back. Just stay here because we need people with good talent. But you never know. Sometimes you can like open up some brands. Like Fang went back to Singapore. You're like, what the fuck? And he opened up like a school down there. So yeah. So that's awesome. Also, actually, I have a bunch more questions. We just randomly talking about stuff. So okay, here's what is your first art job and how do you get started?
Sure. So I was busy studying art at a school in South Africa, and at the end of my second year, I went to intern at a game studio, and I felt like I learned so much in like 2 weeks compared to of studying at school. And I think that's pretty normal in that you do learn a whole lot on the job anyway. But I felt like I learned so much that if they were going to offer me a job, I was going to drop out of school, which isn't necessarily something I'd recommend. but like I'd already studied a maths degree before that, so
so you have a degree.
I had a degree. Having another one wasn't really important to me. And so when that studio said, "Hey, like we're gonna try and figure things out and hire you," I didn't go back to school. It was I first started out as a Flash game developer. I had to write action scripts.
Flash.
Yeah, there was a Flash game I worked on. So I did that for just a month or something, and then I was a junior artist, and a tech artist, and a programmer. And I worked there for like 4 years or whatever. Became a lead artist.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, or I mean on a specific project, but yeah, because we had smallish teams and we'd all do everything anyway. I got to wear a lot of different hats.
And then when did you start learning 3D? What's your first 3D program you got your hands on?
I learned 3D in school. We were mainly using Softimage and 3ds Max.
Softimage. Oh my god.
Yeah.
Like, holy cow.
Back in the day.
That's like
it was a really good piece of software. I'm really sad that it got axed.
I think somebody bought it, right? I think Maya bought it or something.
Yeah, Autodesk bought Softimage, and then like 2 or 3 years later, they closed it down.
And now everything kind of merges. So now, like Maya and Max is basically the same company. It's still Autodesk.
Yep. So I think the only independent ones are like Blender and Modo and Houdini.
Not ZBrush?
Oh yeah, and ZBrush.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So these are nice, but there we go.
This was a course with Scott Eaton. Just doing courses all the time.
Oh, so this is a real clay?
No, this is in ZBrush.
Okay.
But he gave us like a whole bunch of really good reference material.
Yeah, it look like a real sculpture, so that's good.
Yeah.
What is so wait. Okay, so how do you like from that first point? How do you get the second and the third, and how do you end up in at Epic? Like, what's your journey be like?
It was actually a bit of a surprise.
Oh.
I think I was mostly just working in the evening. I felt like there was sort of an impatience, but also sort of a fear. Like if I wasn't working, if I was just, I don't say wasting time, but like
Yeah,
if I was just chilling out, then there was always this like nagging feeling at the back of my mind that like, hey, like if you might starve if you don't, or I would end up having to make a choice. It was like I'd either have to not do art anymore and use like my maths backup career, and the thought of that was just like horrifying.
That would not be
absolutely do that, right? Yeah. It was either that or I had to like really make it as an artist, or starve. And so, especially earlier on in my career, I made working in the evening like pretty much a habit, and it was sort of obsessive, where I don't think it was necessarily healthy. But I think like maybe early on, when your body can handle it,
yeah, if you're young,
it's maybe not.
Is I think it's the hunger, you drive. You just kind of like, okay, let's see how far this take you.
But it also didn't really feel like work. I just really enjoyed learning all the time.
That's the best part about your job.
Yeah. So I just kept taking courses and teaching myself stuff, and just absorbing everything I could. And then eventually I got kind of frustrated working in mobile games. It had been 4 years. I needed a change. I needed to try something new. So I applied to the studio in Cape Town, Free Lives, and they were working on Broforce at the time, and they wanted some help from a tech artist. So I applied, started working there, and they did a really, really great work environment. I mean, indie games is usually really difficult. Like most indie studios fail, but Broforce was doing really well, and so we could explore a lot of creative projects without really having to worry about whether we were going to lose money or anything. And that was like really satisfying. And it was also a great group of people where they just like, they were also jamming, they were exploring things on weekends and after hours and stuff. And just, it no longer felt like I was working in the evening, like on my own, because it can get kind of lonely. Like you can do Google Hangouts and you can do all of the stuff online, but it's still,
it's not the same.
Like, yeah, it isn't the same as being in a room or like being able to walk past someone's computer and see them like just, I don't know, trying something new and different.
Yeah, and it's like sometimes when you have people working around you, you like peek on their monitor. Like when I peek at Kekai or Jamie Jones' monitor, I was like,
yeah,
fuck. And you
can teach each other and explore each other, and like you're just being pushed harder. There was one guy in particular who like he'd been working for fewer years in the game industry than I had, but I mean, he was a bit older. He'd worked in like visualization before, and and his work was always like so inspiring.
Yeah, when you see people like that, it's kind of get you fired up.
Exactly.
It's pretty good, and you good to keep those kind of people around.
Right.
That's pretty awesome. Well done. So okay.
After a while, I was just like, I mean, I didn't really have any real intention of leaving there. But when there was an opportunity at Epic, I took it because I felt like I wasn't done learning. So I wanted to learn from people who were like really, really good. And I mean, going from a tiny studio where we were like 10 people to a studio where there's like hundreds, and like people who are very, very specialized at what they do. I mean,
yeah, they're really good.
Yeah, I was just like, oh, if I can learn from like all the specialists, then I can like maybe not be a jack of all trades anymore or master of none kind of person. Maybe I could be like a specialist at everything. I don't know if that's actually possible, but I'm gonna see.
Well, if you like usually jumping around, it's pretty good. You can be like the one that most people will like, people who can do art and highly technical. And
Yeah, right now
Mhm.
the industry really likes that.
Yeah, it's like very valuable because not many people could do that thing. I
Yeah, if
mean,
you want to work in games right now, like the best, the easiest sort of art ways to get in are doing rigging or effects or UI or tools.
technical. Yeah.
Yeah, like all of them are some combination of programming and art. And if you do one of those, like right now, it's very, very easy to find work.
Yep, because like either you're really good at art or either you're really good at programming, and
Yeah,
it's like
usually,
it's really hard to find person like you and us, the specific kind that you pretty good at both, and it's yeah, it's kind of like you're one of those rough black diamonds. We
I,
need
I'm
fun.
I'm
Yeah.
actually like, so I have I think quite a bit about the future too, because I mean I thought a lot about the future back then because
Mhm,
of how I wanted to try and shape my career in a way that would make me valuable.
mhm.
And I actually think that, like, I mean, right now it'd be really great if you knew a bit of programming and you were a good artist. But maybe in like 5, 10 years time, like as our tools get better, as like Unity that kind of make it so that you don't really have to be a hardcore programmer to make video games.
Whoa,
I feel
but
like
then
I feel like in many ways the technical barrier is lessening more and more, and that the artistic, like a creative vision, becomes more and more important.
that's what they've been saying for the last 10 years. But then there's always gonna be new things for you guys to do.
I guess.
See what I mean? There's like back then
Sure.
you're like, oh, if you can write Python on Maya on Max, then well, you're good technical artist. But now nobody really write Python anymore. Maybe they still do, but
I think there are studios that still do a lot of it.
mhm. But there are more stuff for the
Yeah,
technical artists to
right.
do. There's always more
Sure.
things. You know what I mean? So I think
Yeah.
even the technology will move toward the more consumer friendly. There are
Right.
still the gap that that you can never bridge, or you're gonna have to have someone who fill that gap, or a group of like smart people who can do the thing that I cannot do,
Hmm.
which pretty
I
hard.
do think that, like, or at least the way that I've seen it has been that so there are definitely far more games being made today, right? And like there are far more games because it is easier to make video games.
Mhm.
So a lot of what makes you competitive when you're making video games ends up being what you can bring to the table that's unique. And
Yeah,
in terms
that's
of a game's design, then a lot of it is about like fresh ideas
yeah.
or
Or I might not necessarily have to be fresh. Like right now, there's you have
oh
like
yeah, that's true.
platform that you can make video games, but I wouldn't say Overwatch is fresh. Like
Yeah,
Overwatch is extremely popular, but if
right.
you look at it carefully, it's kind of like Street Fighter with new spin. See what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, I do feel like it's like Team Fortress 2, but
Yeah, that
with
too. And
it's a
Dota.
decade later, and yeah,
Yeah, it's a combination of everything. But like the character remind me a lot of like Street Fighter, which is a pretty good. I think that's kind of more stood out to me. And
okay,
yeah, a bunch of my friend like went to work there, and I was like, damn, you guys
cool.
from there. But yeah, it was pretty fun game. And Mike asked, is Genital Jousting a real game? He asked,
Yes,
did you work in Genital Jousting? So
that
that's
was
the game.
yeah. So that was the last game I worked on before I left Free Lives. Um,
Oh, I did
it
not
was
know
it was
that was
supposed to
a real
be
game.
it was supposed to be like this 2 month like not very serious project,
Mm-hmm.
and then we just kept on getting really good feedback. And so
I bet.
after we were like done with our 2 months, and I was like, cool, like we said it was 2 months and then I would leave. They're actually still busy working on it. So it entered
Oh,
early
nice.
access
So it
in
did pretty well
November
then.
last. Yeah, I mean it's made its money back.
Oh, wow. Nice.
Yeah. So like I mean there's still really cool content coming.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but yeah, you'll have to see.
I'll try to find that game. Is it on what platform is it?
It's on Steam.
Oh, it's on Steam. Oh, okay. So it's just
Yeah.
got to go to Valve. Okay,
Yeah.
so all right. Next serious question here. Yeah. So what's the aha moment that you think you can actually uh making art for living? Was it like the art side that you kind of like leaning toward, or what is it like? You know that you have to like
Um,
do some math, or what is it? what's like the moment that you're like, I'm going to do this for a living.
Yeah.
This is possible.
I think for a very long time I was very nervous because especially at the start of my career, for like the first year or two, I really wasn't paid very well. I had to live with my parents for quite a while.
Mm-hmm.
Just because, like, I mean, it's not that I couldn't afford to move out, but like if I did, then I wouldn't be able to afford taking courses anymore.
Yeah.
So it would have been really tight, and I was very, very worried during that time, and my parents were pretty worried too. So I feel
Plus you
like,
get free food. So
yeah,
that's good.
and I didn't have to buy a washing machine and a freezer, and
Yep.
so I feel like when there was a point at which I started being paid in dollars, which is pretty amazing when you're living in South Africa.
Mm-hmm.
At that point, so having studied the math degree, I had friends that I'd studied with who had had started working when I'd completely switched careers and started like an art degree.
Mm-hmm.
So like they were quite a bit ahead of me just in terms of like postgraduate study or in terms of entering the workplace.
Mm-hmm.
And so I feel like maybe I had kind of an inferiority thing going on where I did really well at school, and now I was entering this like super risky career later on,
Mm-hmm.
and I felt like maybe I'd done really well in school, but now I was kind of a failure being paid so little and stuff. and
Well,
after
yeah.
like 2 or 3 years or so, I was actually making the same as like friends who were accountants and graphic designers and things who had started way before me.
Yeah.
And I think some of it was because I was offering a fairly unique set of skills.
Mm-hmm.
That sort of bumped up my value a bit. But just knowing that, hey, like I can move out and I can afford courses and I can save money and stuff,
Mm-hmm.
and that the game industry was still growing, and there was no indication that I would be struggling with the skills that I had. That was just like such a massive relief.
Yeah, but I mean, credit do like, I mean, you know, where credit to like you work your ass off also. Like I remember you.
Yeah, I mean, I did, but I was also really lucky.
Yeah, and then on Facebook, I see you constantly posting stuff, even though you know, and you constantly improving. So that's I think that's a really important trait for people who work in the industry, because like a lot of people sometimes a lot of people don't understand. Like kids be like, oh, it would be fun to come and work in here, but you don't know like how hard. Like they look at the result of whatever that had been cultivated for years, right?
Yeah.
It's not like you coming in and just start doing this and they'll be like awesome. It's not talent, it's hard work.
What I also think is like worth keeping in mind as someone who's still waiting to break in is that the people that you're kind of competing against are doing the stuff like they're working 8-hour or more, like they're working 8-hour days, and doing that volume of work is kind of making them get better and faster and stuff.
That too.
And a lot of people will go home and work on other creative things too that are
on the
like,
side.
It's not necessarily exactly the same thing that they do for work, because like that can get kind of old. But there are a lot of people who work as artists during the day, but then they make cosplay costumes in the evening or something. And it's like it's still practicing artistic stuff, or they're doing like traditional painting, or they're sculpting or something. It's like they're still practicing creative skills, and these are skills that will carry over into their day jobs. It's just like a different form of it.
Yep. Yes, especially like, you know, like I remember like a few of us, like we usually sometimes we'll go to like 3 oil painting in like a week, like do have like a session. So
that's awesome.
Get really obsessed about oil paint, and it's kind of the same thing you do at work, but it's a different kind of environment, you know. So it's like, oh, your hobby is the same thing as, it's kind of similar to what you do at work.
And
then you got go ahead.
For a while, I wanted to get away from a computer because I was just like oh man, I'm sitting in front of a computer all day. So I was like, okay, am I gonna take up like or sculpting? And I ended up going with sculpting because I could just like melt the clay and then like start over with a new one each time. Whereas like with oil painting, I'd just be like, oh crud, it takes really, really long. I have to wait for it to dry. and
Yep.
then I have to buy more paint all the time.
Mm-hmm.
I was just being cheap.
Just like, sometimes, like, think of it like way back in the day when you try to render a model, that's like, take forever. Like, especially if you
Yeah.
render like high polys on some scene, you're like,
Yeah.
oh my God, that's take forever. And nowadays, you're like 2 seconds. Boops.
Yep.
So, yeah, it's just
Man, the
technology.
stuff that game engines can do now. Like
Yep.
I keep seeing Unreal Engine being used in things that are like not really games.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like in a whole bunch of like architectural visualization and like all of these things that used to be rendered out
Mm-hmm.
offline.
Mm-hmm.
Interactive when you can walk through these buildings.
Yep. Yeah, you guys working on VR stuff also, or
Oh yeah, there was
AR?
a VR game that came out. I think it was last month called Robo Recall.
Oh, is it
Um,
on Vive or what is it on?
it's on Oculus.
Oh, damn
Um,
you.
I'm told that you can still somehow play Oculus games on a Vive.
Oh, you do? You can? Oh,
Yeah.
I gotta
I've
figure
never,
that out. All right.
yeah,
All
I've
right.
never done that myself though.
I'll try to figure that out. So, next question. Yeah, Mike Dumas like, he was like, it's a good game for a party. Um,
Yeah.
what is your best advice to the young artists who just starting out right now, to kind of become a better artist, or how to get into the industry? Like, what did you do? Because, like, when I get to here, it's like, I don't know, 20 years ago.
Yeah.
I'm like, probably don't know how to do it these days. It's
I
not the same.
I I'm always nervous about giving advice because a lot of the
You'll
time
be
I feel like
fine.
it's I just I want to be giving good advice,
Mhm.
but I also know that like my experience is from growing up in South Africa and in
Yeah.
sort of a middle class home and so it's like obviously work hard, right? Like,
Yeah,
but
but
everyone's gonna say that.
that's pretty, that's working hard, because you like way over there and you like come all the way
Right.
over here. So that's even, that's a
I
little bit
think
of disadvantage already, because they have to
right.
do your visa and all that
I
crap.
think I think I would think quite a lot about being like someone who would be hiring or thinking. I mean, I'm assuming that like that most people who'd be watching whatever are
Hmm.
more coming from like more Western or capitalist societies.
Probably.
And like if you're working within like capitalist structures, you end up having to think a whole lot about competition.
Hmm.
So it's like, okay, I want to be an artist. I want someone to hire me. How will I get them to hire me? It's like, well, why would they hire me over anyone else? So it's like,
Hmm.
if I want to be an artist, then either I have to be like an artist who's way better than other people of like my group. So like if I'm looking
Yeah.
for a junior
You're looking.
position, like
Yeah.
looking for a junior position is already going to be really difficult because
Hmm.
there will be many, many, many people who are capable of filling junior positions. So it's like you shouldn't be aiming for being a junior. You should be aiming as high as as you can as soon as possible, I guess.
Hmm.
But like just thinking about like, hey, what are the people that I would be competing with doing? And you don't necessarily have to compete by being like a better artist. It could be by picking up like skills that synergize really well with art. So it could be
Hmm.
becoming a tech artist, or it could be picking up some like business skills, and finding ways to like. I mean, I don't want to. So examples might be selling tutorials or like um, being more, I don't know, involved in like an online commerce thing or
Hmm.
something. I don't actually have experience being like a business artist person, but like
Hmm.
there are other ways to sort of make a living, I guess.
Hmm.
So you could be a really really good artist as well, but then you just have to be a really good one.
Hmm.
I don't think there is space for especially when you're starting out. I don't really see a way to work like less than 8 hours a day
Hmm.
and be able to get in easily. I feel like that's sort of a given.
That's true. And always like trying to get better, and taking workshops and stuff.
Yeah.
constantly seeking for new knowledge and trying to get better. Because like
Yeah.
if you keep doing what you're doing and you're not taking anything new, or like I just read this new couple of books. It's called Peak and what is it? The other one, fuck, Grit and Peak. I'll send you the link.
Okay.
It's
Okay.
pretty awesome. Yeah, it's
Cool.
about they're talking about how to get better, and they have like this thing called deliberate practice, which
Yeah.
is it's kind of the reason you taking class or trying to do workshop is because you're trying to find what you can improve on. And
Right.
a lot of time what you can improve on is specific. It's not broad. You know what I mean?
Right.
Unless you like just start out, then it's
Yeah.
gonna be pretty broad and you're gonna have to like quantify. And then when people find you specific in you there's something that you can improve on your foundation, and then that's when you fix that part. It's kind of like when you're playing guitar, and that will be one part or one section of the guitar that you can't fluently play it all the way through. So you keep repeating that until you get
Right.
that section. So once you get that section, then the whole song is complete. Or
Yeah.
you move on and do some other section that you need to work on, same as piano or something. So like those two books are really good because they got like a lot of good example from like a lot of like world-class pianists and a
Cool.
lot of athletes. With artists, I think it would be different, but then they don't have that kind of, because well, unless they come into game or film industry, then you'll see the same type. But if you look at general art in the gallery, they probably have a different type of working ethics or something, which I have no idea how they do that. I only know I only live in my small world here. So
There is sort of a side point that I guess I want to make, which is
mhm,
like, you talk to just about anyone in the entertainment industry that they'll always talk about working hard, but
mhm,
there is also a point at which like working becomes kind of an obsession.
mhm,
Um, and even though I try to do work regularly, I have also been thinking quite a lot um, about exercising and eating healthily
yep,
and having like more of a balanced life in that sense.
yep. You should
I
do
I
that.
don't I don't. I mean, I'm not sure about whether you should just be balanced like all the way through, or if you should like work stupidly hard for the first like 3 years or whatever of, and then to reach the point where you can take things a bit easier because you've sort
Yeah,
of earned it by putting in the work.
I think
I don't know which
that's a
is
good point of view.
better.
Yeah, I
I mean,
think
I know
I don't
I know
know.
I worked super hard early on, and it, like for me, it's paid off.
Hmm.
But I also know people like who've kind of, I don't know, uh, started to hate the work because they sort of got burnt out or something.
Yeah, because they don't have hobbies and they got a little burnt
Yeah,
out.
that's really dangerous.
Yeah, so like I think that's the right point you're hitting on that note, because like before I get my first job, I basically did not do shit at all for like 2 years. But I do work because I have different jobs. So I worked for Microsoft at the time, but then I want to change my career. Um, and then yeah, I after regular job, I just come home and just stay up all until like 1 o'clock and just work for like a couple of years, few years probably. Yeah. But then after you got in and you get more comfortable. So that's a really good point. Like you kind of, you know, uh, step on your paddle and just 180s or whatever
Yeah,
for a while. You can't do that forever. You know what I mean?
yeah.
So at
I,
some
I
point
I
you
do
have
feel
to.
like it happened sometime last year where I started to. I don't actually know what burnout necessarily feels like, but I didn't feel like working anymore, and I was
Yeah, you
so
should.
scared because I was just like, I've invested so much of my time and energy into this career. What
Then
happens if I don't want to do it anymore?
yeah,
And that
what
was
happened if
like
you don't love it
scary.
anymore?
So
Yeah,
I think I went like 2 months or something, maybe a bit longer, just like almost not doing any personal work at all. And
yeah,
after that, I really started to miss it, which was great.
yeah.
So
I think there's a lot of people like Jamie Jones would take like a few months sabbatical.
mhm.
So he's like would work whatever that he's working on, and he's like we'll make a deal like, yeah, I'm gonna take 2 months or 3 months sabbatical. I was like, what the hell is sabbatical, dude? He's just like, just sabbatical, take my time off. I was like, oh shit, that's sounds pretty interesting. But I usually go like usually I'll go work out. And Bruce Lee also said he would have one day a week of not doing shit at all. So I was like,
Yeah.
oh, that's an interesting perspective of not doing anything that are kind of not doing activities that you usually do during the routine.
Right.
So there'll be like a day off, and I think that should kind of relieve some of the steam off, I guess.
Yeah.
Because I mean, you're right. Like that's a good point. You can, steam. I mean, go like full speed all the time. You have to
Right.
kind of slow down a bit.
I think the thing that I've struggled a bit with trying to figure that out is just like knowing when I'm not working because I'm actually feeling lazy, or like knowing not to work because I'm actually like I'm still sort of figuring out when to do each.
Yeah, but I think if it's legit, if you set the day and you kind of okay between this hour and this hour, you're not
Yeah.
working or something like that. So
Yeah.
it's rather that, or like I know some people who work hard and always working, and they some people would get like the what do you call that repetitive motions strain or something
Oh
on
yeah,
them, and they have
like
to
RSI or something.
yeah RSI, and they have to go like this kid on
Yeah.
YouTube doesn't even know like if you use mouse to draw, that's what you're gonna get. And even like when you do 3D with mouse, that's what you're
Yep.
getting. And if you do too hard, then you go under the knife, and then that's somebody's gonna give you a break because of that. You rather have that or have a break to see what I mean?
Yep.
Yeah. So one more question here. So getting in is ridiculously hard, especially when you have no experience. Do you think there is something people can do that would make up for lack of experience to compete with
Yes.
those? Yes. Okay.
Absolutely. One of what I think. Yeah. So I've seen students coming to game jams. There are game jams that happen all over the world, and even if you can't go to like a physical location, you can enter them online. So like a game jam is sort of a limited time. It's like anything from there've been game jams that have been 1 hour long, and there are game jams that are up to like a month or something. So just like it's a fixed period of time where you have to make a game. Um,
Oh.
if you go to these, often there are communities that like gather around them. Just by entering and taking part and just doing it regularly, practicing. In part, you're practicing making art or doing programming or whatever for video games, but it's also a way to show other people what you can do. So one of the problems that people often have when they have no experience and they want to be working in the game industry is that like, you're an artist, you want to work in games, but you don't know very much about getting your art into a game engine or having to hook it up or write blueprints for controlling it or any of that. And these are skills that you can practice in game jams. And so when people are looking to hire and they're a bit nervous because, hey, this person doesn't have any experience, if your portfolio is art, but it's like art that is very, very relevant because it's art that is in a game engine, and you can see that this person didn't go and throw in like ZBrush sculpts into a game engine and just like hope for the best or whatever. Like there's they may not have professional experience, but they do have experience working on games specifically. I think that would be a pretty good way of making your portfolio stand out from other people's. Because for the most part, I just assume that like there's definitely like a base quality that you have to reach before you can really be finding work. Assuming that you've reached that base level and a lot of other people have, I would really suggest taking part in game jams as a way to stand out more. And it's that as well as a networking thing, because of the number of people who jams and in those communities all the time. So it's sort of just being known as, oh yeah, there's this guy who like regularly comes to game jams and he does art really quickly. Maybe if we need, because I mean, you sort of have to in the space of the weekend or 3 days or whatever that a game jam typically lasts. So it's like if you can make game assets in that time, that's pretty great.
Yeah. That's a pretty tight deadline.
Yeah. And it's like, it's sort of assumed that, hey, like if you have more time, it'll be better anyway.
Yeah. And I mean, even if you don't have experience or you don't know your baseline at all, just go and observe and see, and then you will actually know where you're at and what you have to work on. So Yeah, that's a pretty valuable information. I have no idea about like game jam. I don't know anything about. When did it start?
Sure, they've been going on for years. I think the two most famous ones are there's Global Game Jam, but that happens only once a year. It's usually in January.
Oh,
And then there's one called Ludum Dare. That one happens. It's an online one that happens, I think, three or four times a year. And then like there are just lists of game jams. I mean, if you just search for game jams, there are many that are all happening at the same time. I'm pretty sure that like at any point, like on any day, there'll be a game jam running somewhere.
so are they usually pretty big? Are they like some kind of convention? Pretty much.
It depends. So like Global Game Jam is probably the biggest one because because it's only once a year. It's like it's really easy to hype it up and make it a really big event. So there are communities that meet all over the world that like register their offices or their schools or whatever as a location for Global Game Jam, and then people from those communities just they work there for a weekend and see what they can make in one weekend. I think that Global Game Jam is like the best one in terms of physical location. Otherwise, like I think generally like schools, especially schools that do game development, like they really should be doing game jams pretty often. I don't know about finding physical ones because that depends a lot on your location. But even just being well known in the online circles, I think is useful.
Yeah, even if you can, if you can make it, the online one is probably more accessible. But I mean, eventually, if you really need to find a job, you're gonna have to move to the better location, or trying to go to the location that, because a lot of game studio are, most of them, not all of them, are in the city area or close. Some like San Francisco, Seattle, or Texas. There's a lot of them there too. Yeah. So go where the people are. All right. So is there anything you want to, tell the kids what to do and what they should, like, what is the best, so just give them 3 wisdom to live by if you want to be a game developer.
I think as a fairly new FX artist, the one piece of info that I very much do want to drop is there's a website called realtimevfx.com. And that's like, I mean, for a very, very long time, if you wanted to be an FX artist, it was really difficult. Like you had to pretty much teach yourself. There are plenty of courses online that'll teach you how to learn like specific software. There are a lot that'll teach you illustration, but learning game effects has been very, very difficult. So realtimevfx.com started up pretty recently, and it's just like almost all of the FX artists that are, and from indie studios to AAA ones, there are a lot of people who hang out there and are like sharing tutorials and sharing knowledge. If you want to be an FX artist, that's a really, really good place to be. Awesome. It is hard to give advice. I think I've said most of the stuff that I'd want to say anyway.
All right. So, well, it's good to see you again, Jonathan.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, it's been a long time. Let me see. Hello. But then I have to move your screen over here so I can look. Like when I put the thing over here, then it's moved over there, so it's kind of confusing a little bit. So, anyways, thank you guys for watching, Mike and Nolan, and thank you, Jonathan, for come to join us. I don't know which model.
Pleasure.
So, all right. So, well, good luck with Epic and your new venture, and well, enjoy your staying here. Hopefully, you stay a long time. All right. I'll talk to you soon. Thank you very much for joining us today. You have a good night. Bye-bye.